History remembers the sword. It remembers the white mantle and the red cross. But the real power of the poor Knights of Christ didn't lie in their steel. It lay in their ink. In the 12th century, the world was a graveyard for gold. To carry wealth across borders was to invite death. Brigands, kings, and the desert itself hungered for the standard. But the Templars realized a truth that would change the architecture of human civilization. Value does not need to move, only the proof of value does. Welcome to the birth of the ghost ledger. Welcome to the first era of the invisible bank. Imagine you are a noble in Paris. You wish to reach Jerusalem. Between you and the holy city lie 3,000 miles of chaos. If you carry gold, you are a walking target. So, you walk into a Templar commandery. You hand them your heavy, clinking standard. They don't give you a guard, they give you a receipt. A thin slip of parchment, a coded message, a secret seal. You travel light, you travel fast. When you arrive in a dusty outpost in Acre, you present that paper, and like a miracle, the gold reappears. The gold never moved. It stayed in the vault in Paris. What traveled was information. The Templars had solved the problem of physicality. They had turned the hard ledger into a shadow network. How did they trust a piece of paper across an entire continent? Encryption. Long before the blockchain, the Templars operated on a private key system. Their receipts were written in complex ciphers, alphabets known only to the Order. They used the Templar cipher, a geometric code based on the Maltese cross. To an outsider, the receipt was gibberish. To the network, it was a sovereign command. This was the first cloud storage for wealth. The commandery wasn't just a fortress, it was a node. Paris, London, Venice, Jerusalem, all connected by a ledger that existed everywhere and nowhere at once. They had built a system that was faster than the king's horses and more secure than any iron chest. But power of this magnitude has a price. By the late 13th century, the Templars had transcended the physical. They were no longer just warriors. They were the administrators of reality. While kings bickered over borders, the Order was building a borderless world. A kingdom of ink and obligation. They became the bankers to the world's most powerful debtors. Kings borrowed to fund their wars. Popes borrowed to build their cathedrals. Because the Templars were a sovereign state unto themselves, beholden to no king, they held the ultimate admin key. They were the first too-big-to-fail institution. When you owe the bank 1,000 gold pieces, the bank is in your power. But when the king owes the bank his entire kingdom, the king becomes a ghost in his own palace. The Templars were the shadow masters of the medieval world, holding the ledgers of every throne in Europe. They became the sovereign of debt. When King Philip IV of France looked into his treasury, he saw the Order's seal on every ledger. He realized a terrifying truth. He didn't own his crown. He was merely leasing it from a group of monks who held his receipts. This is the birth of the debt-based power structure that governs your life today. The Templars understood that if you control the ledger, you control the man. They were the first to realize that money is just a story we all agree to believe. And they were the ones holding the pen. They didn't need to wear the crown to rule the kingdom. They just needed to own the king's signature. The 13th of October, 1307, the Great Deletion. King Philip IV struck at dawn, hoping to wipe the slate clean. He wanted to kill the creditor to kill the debt. It was the first state-sponsored system crash. But the king made a catastrophic mistake. He assumed the order was a central tower he could burn down. He didn't understand that the Templars had already become a distributed network. As the Inquisitors broke into the commanderies, they found the vaults empty and the ledgers gone. The hidden Templars didn't flee to a physical place. They migrated into the shadows of information. The fleet that sailed from La Rochelle wasn't just carrying gold, it was carrying the protocol. They realized that a physical presence is a vulnerability. To survive the king's fire, they had to become invisible. They dissolved their hierarchy and embedded their methods into the emerging merchant guilds and secret societies. They taught the world how to move value through the fog, invisible to the eyes of the state. Time flies. The men eventually died, but the ghost ledger survived, waiting for the technology to catch up with its ambition. History is a mirror, and the reflection is currently screaming. We see the same pattern repeating in the modern East, the Middle Kingdom. When the state's coffers run dry, the landlords become the harvest. Consider the modern knights of capital, men who built empires of digital commerce and towers of concrete. They became too big, too visible, and ultimately, too tempting. Jack Ma, the architect of a digital Silk Road, silenced and subdued. Wang Jianlin of Dalian Wanda Group and Wang Shi of Vanke Group, stripped of their fortresses. And Hui Ka Yan, the master of the Evergrande estate, now a ghost in a courtroom, forced to confess to the very sins the system once encouraged. They made the same mistake as those Templars who stayed in Paris. They kept their wealth in a form the king could touch. They thought their sovereignty was protected by law, but law is merely a tool for those who hold the sword. The lesson of 1307 is being taught again in the 2020s. If the state knows your name, it owns your life. The truly hidden Templars of today are not the ones on the Forbes list. They are the ones who learn to dissolve their identity into the protocol. They are the ones who moved their spirit into the encrypted fog before the torches arrived. While the visible giants are being hunted, the ghost ledger continues to flow, silent and untouchable beneath the surface of the collapsing towers. Look at the world around you. The Templars never left, they just evolved. Every time you tap your card or scan your palm, you are participating in the Templar protocol. That receipt you hold in your digital wallet is a direct descendant of the parchment slips handed out in 1180. We live in a world of ghost money, where your wealth is just a series of permissions granted by a centralized, invisible ledger. The modern banking system is the Templar dream finally realized. A world where value is untethered from the earth, moving at the speed of light, governed by ciphers that the average man cannot read. The hidden Templar is the algorithm that decides your credit score. It's the swift code that moves billions across oceans while you sleep. They shifted from the sword to the seal, and finally to the software. The cage Newton tried to build with his fixed gold was an attempt to stop this very evolution, to bring value back to something he could weigh and measure. But as the Templars proved on that bloody Friday in October, you can burn the paper, and you can kill the man, but you cannot delete the network. The gilded ledger remains open. The question is, who holds your admin key today?